Can you give me an example of how you have planned and organized for a major long-range project?
For a major long-range project, I would say the best example offhand would be the thesis. For example, that's a project that has to span at least around 2 years, and you have to know generally what technique you're using, why you're using it as opposed to other techniques, what you're hoping to find in the background of that, and then you also have to take into account things like the budgeting and the cost of the materials that you're using. In fact, our supervisors made us do that. And then at the end, you have to write the thesis, which is essentially a project report and a going forward statement as well. Not to mention, again, covers the entire extensive literature. So I'd say that thinking about that, even from the beginning point, is probably a good example there.
Now, I love that you brought in your graduate studies, because why wouldn't you? But you didn't tell me how you planned and organized for it.
Oh, more specifically.
Like, it's project management, so they want to know how are you going to meet the deadline here, long range, 2-year project. You work backwards, you work forwards.
Well, in this case, you tend to work forward. So what you would do first is you do a pilot study to see if your experiments are working out as you expected and if you can go forward from there. And in our case, fortunately, we had a successful pilot experiment, so that allowed us to go through and utilize a technique which we had to optimize somewhat in order to get that done. So in order to meet that deadline, we had to kind of meet almost checkpoint objectives along the way. So is this viable? Is this the best way to do this? And then actually doing the extent of the work itself. So there are essentially a system of planning towards meeting that objective as well.
Much better. Graduate students, who's a PhD here? One? Just one? What year are you in?
Also, 4 years.
How many? You have 5 years to do it?
4 years.
Okay, are you going to
4
make?
or 5 years, but some people do 9 or 10.
Yeah, and this is my hesitation to using a thesis, just so you know. And if you're a PhD student, because there's a lot of people in the world, being Canada, that have heard, it took you how long to get your PhD? Wow, isn't that a long time? And since we work so closely with Faculty of Graduate Studies, I know what they think of long-term thesis and defenses. So just be careful of that.
We're trying to actively dissuade long-term theses.
Of course they are. I didn't know this for the longest time until I was trying to work on an internship program, but the completion rates through FGS affect the rating of the university as a whole. So that's why they're always on top of you to complete them quickly, okay? And that's why they're against internships, because it's throwing a year away from your studies into industry, and that makes it a longer completion rate and blah, blah, blah. Can you give me an example of a time where communication proved to be the most important thing with a colleague?
Sure. Back when I was in my undergrad,
Yes.
my internship, I had a supervisor who had a unique way of communicating. He tends to yell at people. So, of course, you can fight. So, I don't mind getting yelled at, and I prove my work through real work. Eventually, he respected my work, and sometimes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
This is practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I just gotta be patient with the way I speak to him, and kind of speak to other colleagues who have worked with him and how to deal with him, because he could be mean, but he has his reasons. I believe. So
I can guarantee you he does. And one of his reasons is his behavioral style.
Yeah.
It's what I call a high D. He loves it when people fight back with him. He's in your face yelling, you're like, and then, oh yeah, well, and he just, that would excite him.
Believe it or not, a few months after that, I was on par with him. Like, I could yell back at him. And he took my opinions.
You respected
Well,
him,
yeah.
yeah.
Just gonna be very careful with those saying anyway.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're practicing, so good example, but I'd have you write it out and we tweak it
Yeah,
and use the right language.
Mhm.
A lot of people will, with the give me a time when you didn't get along with somebody, they'll start gendering them. Well, he And I'm like, try not to do that, you know. Try to leave the gender thing out of it completely, because now they're wondering, okay, is there a problem between you and men? You know, you're female, they're male, is there a problem there? It always has to be presented in a very positive way. So, you know, a great way to recite yours is, I had a supervisor who, his style of communication was to actually yell at everybody, and sometimes it sounded like he was being very mean. What I discovered is that's his style, and he likes to actually be spoken to that way as well. So although I didn't yell, I was very conflictual with him. I was straight and to the point and factual, and you know, he respected my opinion. Okay, very good. And then you get the nice one. Can you give me an example of a time when you had difficulty getting along with others?
Just the right question.
I thought you were going to say, oh, lots of times. Don't ever do that. Just the right question.
Yeah, well, I had one in particular which was quite recently, last winter. I was doing a project for one of my courses in my master's, for my master's program. The project was designed for 3 students to do it. The problem is we had a problem with one of our own. So the problem was we had difficulty communicating with him. So we had the structure of the project, and we decided which each and everyone would do his role in this project. So the problem was one of us didn't actually perform quite well. So we had first of all to do the project because we had a deadline, and we have also to deal with him because he was lagging behind, and the project as a whole wasn't showing quite good because of his recklessness. So we had 2 options. Either we can go and address it to the professor, which will take a lot of time and a lot of problems, which we are not willing to do or handle because we have a deadline. Or the other thing is we can address it to him and try to communicate one-on-one and try to fix the problem. That would be good. So, yeah.
Good outcome in that you didn't go to the professor. When you have a problem in a workplace, don't go to your boss with the problem without going to the boss with the solution. Okay? They appreciate that. Just wanted you to know this came up, this is what I did. I hope that's okay. If you can think of anything I should do differently in the future, let me know. So you could say that really short.
Okay.
I was working on a project. There were how many on it? 3? 3 on our team. We had a deadline. One of the people on the team was not doing the work that needed to be done to have this project be successful. So we communicated with them that we needed to see things differently. I would hope that you offered to help that person in any way. And in the end, we met the deadline and the project was successful. Okay?
That's more like 30 seconds, isn't it? I mean, I think that was really succinct and, concise. But I think your answer was more like 3 minutes and yours was more like 25 seconds.
Well,
I don't like to
the
waste
question
time.
is it better to do the 30-second answer where it's not necessarily too long? Is it always better not to fill that time?
Definitely. Don't babble. Don't give them information they don't need. They'll ask for it if they want it. Yeah. I would normally take anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, but I wasn't in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to describe a situation I wasn't in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And some of the points are very, very important to make sure they're in there for the person to truly understand the situation and
Yeah.
circumstance.